This is Riley Cote, and you're listening to the Sheriff Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to an exclusive episode of The Sheriff. Guys, today I am very excited to have one of my incredible idols with me as a guest today. Now, this gentleman currently is wearing one of the coolest hats I think I've ever seen. But what I was going to say is he's a man of many hats. He's a player, a coach, analyst, philanthropist, author, friend, father, grandfather, but most importantly to me, he's a legend. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Steve Ludzik, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing great, my friend. And that segue with hat is unbelievable. You were on your A game. I can tell you that right now. But thanks for having me on the show. And I've heard so many great things about your show, from Don Cherry all the way through. And I'm really privileged to be on the show.
Ludzy, I'm privileged to have you on the show. I've wanted you on the show for a long time, and there's for many reasons, Ludz. Like on the Sheriff Podcast, what we try to do is we try to use the platform to create awareness, first and foremost. Secondly is entertainment. Steve Ludzik, you are the perfect guest for the Sheriff Podcast. You know that, right? You're the perfect guest.
You know, you're only good as your leader. So you're going to take me into uncharted territory, and I'll have to answer the questions. And we'll get a little controversy, and we'll have a lot of laughs. I can tell you that. We're going to have a lot of the same people. You had to scrap a few of my people, and I tell you what, they have a lot of respect for you. Alex Penner, one of the toughest hombres this side of Texas, and I heard you had a big bout with him. And great kid. Like he was like one of my sons almost. That's how tight we are, our families with him. So there you go.
Yeah, man. Me and Penner have a pretty good connection, Ludzy, because he has a brother that's actually the same age as me. Okay.
Really?
And we grew up together, Andrew Penner. And so we grew up together, and Alex was always this little kid that was trying to hang around, and we were always like, Pens, get your little brother out of here, man. Like, we're trying to pick up chicks. We're trying to, like, this is in high school, right? And there was always this little guy, because he's 4 years younger than us, right? So anyway, he grew up to be a monster. He grew up to turn into Weapon X, right? One of the toughest professional hockey players in his age group, I believe.
I saw him play Junior B, and it was atrocious, some of the things that he got away with doing there. Guys are literally petrified of him. Like, just nobody's bother them too much. Oh, yeah, keep going your way. Just there's a pass. Go on. There you go.
Yeah,
Good
so
kid.
he is a great kid, Ludzy, but he's had nothing but great things to say about you, my friend. You and your sons, Steve Jr. and Ryan. Like, he loves you guys, right? Where was it that they played together, Ludz?
Niagara Falls Canucks Junior B team.
That's where it was, eh?
And Alex, he's got some skill. Like, he's just not a dusting derbies off. He's filling the net too, which endears him to anybody that likes him. Hey, I had some great guys. Banksy, you had on your show, Darren Banks. I just love him, and I want to before I go off, Sheriff. I want to thank you for what you did for my golf tournament, the Steve Ludzik Celebrity Golf Tournament. You're a star among stars at the golf tournament. I love you for that. We had a miraculous turnout, and it all goes to my foundation, which we can talk about later on. But I want to thank you very much for what you did to help promote it. And you were beautiful at the golf tournament. I mean, Paul Coffey loved you.
Did he really? Because well, first of all,
very quiet. He's just very quiet.
Okay, right on. Ludzy, first of all, that's a big honor, because I just felt special just being a part of the group, right? Yeah. So I was appreciative of being an invite, being able to come. I love that day. I'll never forget it. And man, you know some really cool cats, Ludzy. You brought in some cool dudes, man, to that charity tournament.
Yeah, I did. And most of those guys, Sheriff have been with me for 11 years. That was our 11th year of the golf tournament, and we didn't even really going to have it because of COVID and that stuff. But the people support us, the businesses support us, and we can't do it without guys like you forging the message for us on the internet. You know me, I can't even turn this thing on.
I hear you, Ludzy. But honestly, dude, the golf tournament for me, and it was interesting because every guy that I met at the tournament, Luds, they always obviously had their own personal story of how they met you, what their connection was to you. And it was just so amazing to hear all the different stories. Like you mentioned Darren Banks, man. Like I start talking to Banksy. We talk about that Detroit Vipers team. I end up having him on my show. Ludzy's the coach, man. It was the most incredible stories I've ever heard, man.
Yeah, there were some great stories. You know, great character guys on that team. We never had a guy. People don't know that we set all the records for 3-4 years in the NHL, but we never had a guy in the top 10 scorers of the league. It's crazy. Like we just played a great team game. We loved each other. We had fun. I remember one time when Tyson was fighting. I want to say Holyfield.
Holyfield.
And we could go to. We were in Cincinnati. I said, hold the plane. I want to take the guys to watch the fight, closed circuit.
Come on.
And my GM was going, Ludzy, you sure? I said, this would be a good team bonding thing. It was unbelievable. And I think that was the night that he bit his ear or something like that.
That was an entertaining bout.
Yeah. But I've been fortunate, and I know I loved your style of hockey because you were a crusher. You never thought you were an usher or rusher because then you'd be an usher. You're a talented guy, and I love the way you played. And I'm not waxing apples, but you did a job that not many guys could or would do. And, you know, incidentally, I talked to Dave Schultz today. And
okay.
And there'd be a good guy for you to have on your show. But he's a tremendous guy, and he got talking with Billy Goldthorpe about fighting techniques, and Goldthorpe was talking about how, you know, the original Ogie was a tremendous guy too.
Oh yes.
And any which way, he's talking about his technique. Schultz says, I just grabbed with my left and swung with my right. I didn't worry about any technique. You never worry about that.
Well, those are only the toughest of the tough that can do that, Ludzy. The rest of us have to protect ourselves, man.
I've seen some of your bouts. There was more than protecting going on there. There was maybe a little bit. I would say the toughest guy, you know, toughness to me, it's not necessarily fighting. It's because not everybody can be a good fighter, but it's being tough along the wall with 30 seconds left to go in the game and getting it out, taking a slash in the last minute of the play, of the game to eat it, so the other guy's going to the penalty box. There's different levels of toughness. Fighting toughness. Ben Wilson, my old teammate in Chicago, was probably the best that I ever saw.
Really? So
you know why? Because he wasn't imposing physically. He was an angular guy, I'd say. He had no muscle on him really, and I mean, if he was in a restaurant or a bar and he slapped you and told you to move down a couple of steps, you'd go, get out of here. By the time you hit him 10 times and his hair didn't even wiggle, then you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah. Wow.
Then you knew you were in trouble.
And the reason why that's such a big statement to me, Ludzy, is because, I mean, your time with the Chicago Blackhawks, I find that you played with some of the more famous tough guys that have been known, like, you know what I mean?
Well, I played with Al Secord, a.k.a. also known as Rocky. Kurt Fraser was a very tough. We had a tough team in Chicago. People don't realize that was one of our strengths. We could hit you, and some of those series against Detroit and St. Louis and Minnesota, that was damn good hockey back in the 80s. And then Al Secord called me. He was watching a tape of us playing the North Stars. He goes, Ludzy, every check was finished. Now, I think the players today are much better athletes, better coached, better conditioned for sure. But I don't know if I'm not quite sure whether they have as much fun as we had when we played. That goes for you too.
Ludzy, I can guarantee you that statement that you said is true. You
Yeah.
had a lot more fun than me, my friend, and I had a lot more fun than the young guys today. I can guarantee that, buddy.
Like you, Tom Lysiak after a game. I mean, there was another great. He just got named the most underrated player in the '80s. So Tom Lysiak was one of my best friends, Polish guy, a centerman, and just a great guy. You weren't going to see Tom Lysiak drink one of these milkshakes after a game. When we finished in Chicago, this is hard to believe, Sheriff. When we finished in Chicago in the '80s, you went to your stall and there was 3 beers, Budweiser, King of Beers, as the Boston people would say, King of Beers.
Yeah.
Sitting in the stall. And at that time, I didn't drink. So I give my 3 to Tom Lysiak. And so he'd have 6 before he even left the Chicago Stadium. And we didn't know that beer was bad for you after a game. That was actually a dehydrator. You didn't know that. Who the hell cares?
Nobody knew. That's the thing, Ludzy. Like everything that's come along, like with the game, the concussion awareness, the how to treat the body. Like just think about all the priorities of a guy getting ready for an NHL camp now compared to 15, 20 years ago. It's completely different, Luds.
It really is. And guys are like before you went to training camp to get in shape. Like it's hard to. And they get you there and they skate you up from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock at night. And then they came in with rules saying you can't have these guys in house more than 3 hours. So then they upped the intensity. And why that a lot of guys that intensity because they didn't like Tom Lysiak, he did not do a thing in the summertime. Like he made cut back during the season from around training camp, cut back his cigarette intake. But back then, too, it's hard to believe, too, Sheriff. I'm sitting there thinking, man, oh, man, I sound ancient, but I'm not. But the guys could smoke in the dressing room. And at least half the guys in the team in Chicago smoked cigarettes. And they just pop them out. And our general manager, Bob Pulford, he smoked a couple packs a day. And you'd always tell him when he had a rough day because he had a cigarette and he'd be scratching his white hair and there'd be all nicotine stains all through his hair. Yeah. But guys wouldn't even hide it. They just sit and have a dart, And but that's the way we didn't know anything different. Some guys have a big chunk of chew in their jaw, spitting that crap all over the place, and but we never thought anything of it.
Did you ever chew, Ludzy? Did you ever do the skull?
No, I had trouble. You know what? These teeth, although they look they're most of them are fake. I would have been in big trouble with I've been like a jack-o'-lantern if I had chewed tobacco, and I never smoked. My father smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day, so I saw that it's not it's not a healthy habit.
Yes, no, I hear you, brother. Ludzy, one of the things that I love to pick the brains of my guests is their beginnings, because I feel that especially guys like you that are high character guys, a lot of that is formed in childhood. It's distilled in them from early times, right? I want to talk a little bit about Etobicoke, buddy. I want to talk about growing up in Etobicoke.
Great Etobicoke. Well, I was born down in the Lakeshore, Mimico, and my parents moved out when I was about 4 or 5 to Markland Woods area. And I had 4 best friends. Johnny Kirk, who I think you met at the golf tourney, the big guy for Warrior hockey sticks.
Yep.
All my friends were athletes. And, I grew up playing with Paul Coffey and Randy Cunningworth. I think Cunningworth coached you, didn't he?
Yeah, Cunny's my favorite coach of all time, buddy.
I can see why, because he's a heart and soul guy. And he was a good hockey player. We played lacrosse against each other when we were kids, and I think where I get the competitive siege from inside is from my father. He was a hard ass, but I seem to see, it never really bothered me. And I led the city of Toronto in scoring 6 years in a row when I was a little guy. And when I first won the scoring title, I got a nice plaque in the mail. And it said to Steve Ludzik, leading scorer of the NTHL, 51 goals, 20 some odd assists. Not paltry assists. From that moment I got that trophy, I knew I was going to be a National Hockey League player. The next 5 years, I led the league in scoring, and I never got another trophy from it. I thought, what? That's tough. Not thinking. I went to my dad before he died. Dad died at 50 years of age, and he's a big man, but he was lost about 100 pounds. I said, Dad, I got to ask you, was that you that sent that trophy to me? And he said, yeah, that was me.
Wow.
He goes, I just wanted you to know that I thought you just needed a little bit of boost. So that was my father. He knew when to pat on the back and knew when to kick my ass too.
Wow, that's really special.
Yeah, you know what? And when he died. He lived long enough to see me play in the National Hockey League, and then passed away on Halloween night. And when he passed away, I lost my harshest critic, but my biggest fan.
Yes. God
Absolutely.
bless him. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. But that's where I get it, and I just brought up my mom was an angel, so she outbalanced my father. I'm an exact parallel of my mom and my dad.
What were their names, Ludzy?
My dad, his name was Ted. He was first son of Polish immigrants, and he was 18 years old, and he was a bush pilot in the Arctic. He left home to be a bush pilot in the Arctic. So tells you, you don't make mistakes up in the Arctic. You're not coming back.
Yeah.
My mom was a nurse for 35 years and retired now. And anybody that's met her, she's an angel. And I have a sister that just retired as a nurse, Karen, and she's 1 year younger than me. But I think that goes way you brought up. And I was a competitive kid by nature, just a competitive kid, and I didn't want to lose. I wanted to win so badly, and that's where I formed my greatest. Paul Coffey lived in Malton. I lived in Etobicoke.
Yeah.
I didn't know he came over to our area not to make friends with us at first, because he heard there was a lot of ball hockey action. And my ball hockey team, I don't know if you could go to this, if you want to see about a ball hockey team that we grew up as kids. The Markland Marauders, and the tribute is called "Next Goal Wins." Watch that, and you're gonna get a good idea who I am, and that'll tell a lot of the story, because those guys were my closest friends, and we claimed we were the greatest ball hockey team of all times. But you remember that was during the Ali day when Ali used to brag and all that. So that was kind of but we won a couple North American titles. I was the goalie, Lucky Ludz.
Come on.
Yeah, I was the goalie.
You're kicking them out, man?
I was kicking the butt. I had the old leather pads, and we were very good. We won a couple of Canada-U.S. championships, and it was like Steve Armour says in my video, the tribute. Some of those ball hockey games were more vicious than NHL playoff games. Like Armour said, "Hey, I was nervous while playing these ball hockey games." There's guys coming off the floor that weren't intended to stick out with the ball. They were intended to hurt somebody.
Ludzy, it's interesting that you brought up this ball hockey, because, man, I have recently really learned the competitiveness of the ball hockey right now. Like, I met George Spiros, who's the president of Ball Hockey Canada. Yeah. This was at the Primetime Sports Entertainment Conference that Trevor Whiffen invited me to. And yeah, Trevor, another one of your buddies, right? And man, George was explaining to me about Terry Ryan Burroughs, all these guys playing ball hockey, getting into better shape and making their NHL clubs.
Absolutely. And the thing you get in trouble there is because we played in the 80s. It's great to see. We always said we were the best ball hockey team around. Then we had to go prove it, and we entered a couple of tournaments and we won them. But you got NHL guys had to watch it because the other team had guys that this was their Stanley Cup. So like London, we played London. Dino Ciccarelli was a big star on their team. We would play other teams. I'm trying to think who the guys that were playing. But there was a lot of NHL guys playing back then. But you had to be careful because your contract would be, if you got a knee or injury or serious injury, your contract might be in jeopardy, which is tough to say. But we had on our team Coffey, Stevie Gatzels, who played in the National Hockey League, myself, Mark Osborne was a really good ball hockey player. And we, to tell you what, I think we only lost a handful of games in 10, 15 years we played.
Jeez, man,
And
that's pretty impressive.
we did not leave the ball hockey surface quietly.
Yeah. Ludzy, I wanted to ask you a question about from when you were younger. I want to ask you about the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. Okay. Do you remember going to that tournament as a Pee Wee hockey player? You played for your MTHL team
I played
going
for
there.
which was owned by Johnny F. Bassett, whose family owned the Argos, the Leafs at one time, CFTO. He owned our team. I do remember that tournament. The Pee Wee Vive la Pee Wee Carnival.
Vive le Pee Wee Carnaval.
A lot of guys discover girls in that, and my best friend. We were just talking about this the other day, and I said, I bet you I can name that girl that you were kissing up in the thing here. And I was right. That tournament, and I remember that's first. I'd run into Gretzky a couple of years earlier. He was a big scorer out of Brantford. He had 375 goals. I was a big scorer out of Toronto. I had 75, so that's a big difference.
Yeah.
But we ended up beating Gretzky's team at the Brockville the first time we played. And after the game, I went to tap him to say, "Hey, man, you're unbelievable." But he was so emotionally distraught. He had not lost. That was the year he got. I mean, you're not going to lose many games. One of your guys getting 14 goals a game.
I know.
And they had Greg Stephan in that. They had some NHL guys.
Yeah.
Eventually, NHL players. But what was the Quebec tournament? What would you want to know about that?
No, I like to ask my guests. I was doing my research. I saw that you participated in it, right, Ludzy? And for me, it was my most memorable tournament as a kid. And I always like to ask my guests like whether their experience with the Quebec Pee Wee tournament.
Well, I remember that we lost in the semifinals, and we should have won. But
Arena was packed.
We had the Toronto Toros sweaters. Like that was our replica. And
oh wow,
yeah, they were beautiful looking sweaters because you were owned by John Bassett, who owned the Toronto Toros, and I had a lot. I personally thought I was going to be a lot more dominant. But what I do remember with this is that Gretzky, after one of his games, I think he scored 14 or 15 goals in a game against Texas, and he was getting off the ice, and people were trying to grab his glove, steal his stick. Anything they could, it was like the Messiah had arrived, and these people knew it. And I remember poor Gretzky had a hell of a hard time getting off the ice in Quebec Hall. See, 13,000 people watching the game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating. But you know what? I think we won 4 city championships in MTHL. I was talking to my best friend today, Johnny Kirk, out in Minnesota. And we believe we lost. I thought we never lost a game in 2 years. Won 2 city titles. You know what I'm talking about? The city.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I played in the MTHL.
Oh yeah. Sure. And we won a lot, and we won every term. We never lost. He said we did lose a game to Mississauga, 1-0. That was the McCunnyworth's team. But Gunny, yeah, and he could throw them pretty good. When we were kids. Yeah. Him and I were like a cobra and a mongoose. We were after each other's throats all the time. And I think our dads are after each other. I'm not quite sure. I think there's a competition. They're pretty good.
Ludzy, do you know about Cunny right now? Because I recently was, and I'll explain, somewhat in contact with him, right? Like through a third party. Are you aware of the lifestyle that he's currently living? Because I would love to tell you if you don't.
Love to. Tell me.
Okay, so Randy Cunnyworth, you know how he's a simple guy, right, Ludzy? Like he never needed that much to be happy. He just needed, his family, and you know what I mean? And he's good. So now that he's retired and everything, apparently I talked to Greg, his son, and Cunny and his wife are living in a remote area somewhere up north, like way up north, Ludzy. And it takes them about a half an hour to get to the business where he can check his email. That's how far away he is from technology and everything else. And he's absolutely loving his life right now.
Well, he's a 1961 born, same as me. And we were competitive. Like, I don't mean we took a dislike to each other. And matter of fact, the CNE, and if you ever talk to him, he'll remember this. We got in a fist fight at the CNE in lacrosse, and the people molded up, broke it up, and he took his stick and threw it like a javelin.
No way.
His dad, Big Ruck, gave him a kick in the ass, told him to get. His dad was pissed off at him. But we had all kinds of, Cunningworth and I had all kinds of, because being Mississauga and Etobicoke were separated by the creek.
Big rivals.
Yeah, but I appreciated his competitiveness and his toughness, and I'm glad that he's happy. He deserves that. I mean, the chance he got to coach Montreal wasn't what I'd call chance. I mean he had no chance at all in that situation.
No, I agree.
He's a sneaky tough guy. Like, he could, when he got wound up, look out.
Cuddy, yeah, man, I know what you mean, because I saw a lot of video of him. He was my coach for 4 straight years, right, Ludzy? So
that was your coach? Was Snacky there?
Snacky was there, buddy. Snacky was there, taping my wrists every game. What a great guy, man.
He's the greatest.
He's unbelievable, Lutz.
No, and I got
Kent Wiseman.
He got Parkinson's disease the same time I did.
Okay.
And Snacky was unbelievable. I came down with the start of my liver problem when I was 30, and I was going to try to play the game, and I was urinating. It was black, so something was not right. And my wife called Snacky, Kent Wiseback, and said, "Don't let him on the ice tonight. He can't play. Like, he's something really wrong." Well, it was. My liver was clogged up. I was in big trouble. But I love Snack. Is he still in the kind of shape? Remember the kind of condition? He was in better shape than any of the players.
He motivated me to stay in the gym. He was probably 0.1% body fat.
Yeah, almost too low. But I loved him, and we had a great. We had Donnie Lever was our coach, and John Van Boxmeer, and captain for both of those guys, and what an organization! If you're gonna play in the minors, that's the spot. I take that back. If you're gonna play in the minors, the Vipers were the place you wanted to play. Detroit.
That's right. Well, we're gonna get into the Detroit Vipers, and trust me, we're gonna get into the Amerks as well. Us both being alumni, trust me. But the team I want to get into right now, Ludzy, is the Niagara Falls Flyers, buddy. I want to talk some Niagara Falls Flyers. Now, there's some records that were made. There was a big mark that was left by Mr. Steve Ludzik with this team. But when I first started looking at these numbers, Ludzy, the first thing that I noticed as a stat guy, as Stats Naslin, aka, is the fact of the improvement year to year from Steve Ludzik. Okay? So we're going 97 points. Next season, 119 points. Next season, 142 points, including 50 goals, 92 assists, 142 points.
Well, I got myself in trouble there. There's a couple. It's great being able to tell these stories here. My last year, I had a chance to win the scoring title. It was won by a guy named John Goodwin.
Okay.
But during the season up in Sudbury, I whacked a wolf mascot. And I got suspended 10 games.
No way.
I think games played 50. That cost me the scoring title. But you know what? I deserved it. I did a stupid thing, and I paid the price for it. And then the best thing about it was I had a chance to win the overall 3-star thing in the OHL. And I had a real good game. The last game of the season was in Sudbury, where I had to whack the wolf a couple months before. I need 1 point to win the title, scoring title. I had 2 goals and 2 assists, and they gave me nothing because they knew. So I got paid back for being a son of a bitch. They paid me back. They gave me nothing.
I'll tell you what you did get while you were there, though, that being Niagara Falls. Okay, so let's go over these 3 years. So you racked up 100 goals, 230 assists for 358 points. That is the all-time career point leader, which still stands to this date.
I didn't know if it was still standing because it's moved around. I
Oh,
want to
yes.
there because this is a great. If the young kids watching your show, don't let anybody tell you can't do something. And I'll tell you why, because, and you can see I'm getting irritated just talking about this, but that's the way it is. You don't mind that, do you?
No. Speak your mind, Ludzy.
After playing, I played in Markham for the Waxers.
Yeah.
My draft year, junior draft year. I got Crohn's disease and was gone for most of the season. I had scored 30 goals in 30 games before I got sick. And then my game really tailed off. Anyway, long and short of it is, Steve Ludzik was not wanted. Suddenly, these teams like the Marlies, who I played for, he can't play anymore. He got Crohn's disease. Nobody really knew much about Crohn's disease at that time anyway. But they were all doctors, and they said, he's finished. He's done. He can't play anymore. He never was all that good any which way. And I had to watch and sit there and watch the draft. They watched players that I knew weren't that. I knew deep down that I was a better player then. And I got drafted.
And this is the OHL draft, right, Ludzy? The OHL draft?
Yeah, I was a 7th round draft pick by the Niagara Falls Plan. A lot of people don't forget that story. And I still wasn't, like Bert Templeton was my coach, and they're saying, hey, he weighs 155 pounds. How is he going to play for Templeton? The greatest coach I ever played for. By the end of that year, I was leading scorer on the team as a rookie. And we lost out to the Peterborough Peach School Memorial Cup. And it was just phenomenal. My teammates, to this day, we stay in contact. That's how close a team we were. So I always tell young kids, don't let anybody tell you you can't do anything or you're done, because especially me in my situation, I've battled back more times than Frank Sinatra. And this recent battle has been a tough one too with the liver. But I had that experience to draw on what it's like when people give up on you. And I never forgot it. And that's why I think I had success with a lot of players that a lot of guys didn't like. Banksy, he's no good. I had a lot of success. I never had a problem with Darren Banks. I thought he was great. I used to say to him, I wish I had you when you're 16, not when you're 26. Because you're going to figure, yeah, exactly. And Banksy, I love Banksy. And Andy Beazle, does that name ring a bell with you?
Oh, yes. Okay.
He's one of Banksy and Beazle were probably my 2 favorite players that I ever had. And I just thought the world of them, and I still do. And God bless all those guys. I love hearing from players that played for me. I love it. I just love hearing, some of the stuff I don't even recall. To be honest.
I hear you, and like I know that you're obviously with Banksy. That was also with the Detroit Vipers time, right? Now I know you just mentioned that you like hearing from players that you coached. Well, I had a guest on here very recently, Mr. Jason Payne. That was a call up. He was a call up to you, Ludzy, right? And man, great guy. And Ludzy, let me tell you what, man. He told me that his short time with you as the coach and being a part of that team was one of the greatest experiences of his whole career.
Well, you know what? Jason Payne is nice a man. First of all, he's a class guy. He's a classy guy. And he's a humble guy. And I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad he's in the hockey business. Needs more guys like him. And I think he played 2 games for it, didn't he?
Yeah, at least.
I don't think I even had a chance to watch through our forecheck with him that way. He was in and gone. But I think he was, as I remember, he was excited about what I wore to dresses at a game, and the guys thought that was pretty funny. They go, wait till you see his spat shoes. And
the two-tone.
Two-tone, yeah.
He described it as two-tone. He told me the story, Ludzy. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and
he said you were the most fashionable guy he's ever seen, still to this day. Two-tone shoes, well-pressed suit, colors he's never seen before, buddy.
Yeah. You know why I did that? And nobody's asked me this, and I'll tell you why. I played for coaches along the way. Spaghetti stain on a tie. shoes are all disheveled, hair not combed back, not combed, no, not shaved. You know what? The first thing a player sees when attention to detail. How
Yes.
am I expect my players to follow the forechecking pattern if I can't even put on a clean shirt that's ironed properly? I don't know. I just don't get it. That's the reason I did that, and because I played for too many coaches, and he'd be going, "Oh, look at that! The guy's got a mustard stain on his pants," and he didn't notice that. Well, maybe you're not gonna notice if I don't back check in the right spot.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so true. It's so true. You were so right, man. You're so right.
And the guy, and it used to be, you know what? The guys actually the guys liked it. They got my own team. They used to, we joke about it, but that's good. I enjoy that. And when I did the score, I got somebody from Western Canada. Somebody sent me a cowboy belt, and the show was very popular out west. I know I'm jumping around here, but
no, that's fine. It's great. It's great.
I started getting cowboy belts sent me in the mail. I had like 200. I can't even get on a horse. I don't know which end to get on a horse. But they all thought I was a cowboy, and maybe because of the hat. I didn't wear a hat back then. So, any which way, that's the reason. I'm glad nobody's ever asked me that before, and that's the reason why. Because I wanted my players to know that I took the time to look good, and or what I thought was good, and I wanted them to have the same pride in what they looked and how they looked, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm coming to do your show. I'm shaving, after shave. I got the hair comb.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess it's a form of respect. I guess maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Ludzy, you're hitting the nail right on the head on all these areas. Okay, and you have to know there's a big saying in hockey. There's lots of cliche sayings, but the one that I really believe the most is look good, feel good, and play good. Steve Ludzik style.
Absolutely. How about that? How about, Sheriff? How about when you got a good stick and the puck's just it's flying off the stick, and then you get the one of the same dozen that came and it doesn't even have the same feel to it. You're like you got a stick in your hands and warm up. You're going, hey baby, this one, I'm hitting a home run tonight, no question about that. But that's stuff that we as hockey players, we all know what it's like about that.
Absolutely, buddy. Ludzy, I'm loving this, buddy. By the way, I don't know if you can see that I'm on the edge of my seat listening to your stories here, buddy. So now, Sorry, go ahead, buddy.
I wanted to say that I left more than I left junior. In Niagara Falls, and back then they started training camp 2 weeks later than school. So we missed 2 weeks of school. I went to school, and Steve Larmeyer and a couple of other guys are sitting there eating lunch in the cafeteria, and this blonde walks in. And I go to Johnny Kirk, right beside me. I said, "That's the girl I'm going to marry." And he said, "What did you say?" I said, "That girl right there, I'm going to marry that girl. Right now, I can tell you right now, I'm going to marry her." I hadn't even dated a girl at 17. And when she's doing, that's the girl I married. And she's been the best thing, and got me through more hard times than and I believe that sometimes you get that call, and it's like, I remember I turned to the back because I didn't know her name. I turned to the guy behind me, and I knew he tried out for the Flyers, and I said, "What's that girl's name?" And he goes, "Marianne Zaplicki." That's a good Polish. That gives me the inside. He goes, "But she's dating another guy," and I went, "Not for long, she's not."
Yeah. Ludzy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let me get this straight. So you're telling me that Mrs. Ludzik walked into this establishment, you saw her for the first time. This was the beginning of the last year on Niagara Falls?
No, my first year.
Your first year?
We were just fresh. Yeah, it was our first day of training camp after training camp was over. And everybody, they laughed at us being boys from Toronto. There was me, Daryl Evans, Wayne Crawford, there's about 5 of us, and we all wore clogs, and the kids in Niagara Falls hadn't really seen these clogs, and they were laughing at us walking into school. So yeah, Mrs. Ludzik, yeah, she was Miss Zaplicki back then. That was a nice Polish name. They gave me the inside track, but anyways, she was a beautiful girl, still is. But yeah, I eventually started. We were 17 years old then, but I had not seen her. I first time I laid eyes on her was she came in and I went to my Johnny Kirk. I said, "That's the girl I'm going to marry." And he was eating an egg salad sandwich, and he went, "What? We've been best friends since we were 3 years old." He went, "What?" I said, "That girl, I'm going to marry that girl right there. I'm telling you right now." That's what happened. Dude, isn't that something?
That's one of the greatest stories I think I've ever heard. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, buddy.
Yeah.
So
I don't think her mom and dad at first were too impressed that she was dating a hockey player, but so be it.
Hey, man, you know what I mean? Yeah, I totally understand exactly, Ludzy. So Lud, so now this is the thing. Your time in Niagara was so good, like getting better every single year, improving every single year. The numbers just like almost quadrupling, okay, from first to last. Now, this momentum obviously goes into your first year pro, Ludzy, because you kind of light it up, man, as soon as you turn pro. I told you I'm a stat guy. I'm looking at this New Brunswick Hawks. Chicago rewarded you and gave you almost 10 games that season. But the New Brunswick Hawks, but sorry, go ahead, please.
You know what happened there? That's you really do your homework. That was my first year pro. Steve Larmer and I lived together, and there's a great story about that. I want to tell about her underwear, but I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
we went to New Brunswick, and the coach was a guy named Orville Tessier, who was a bombastic guy, and he ran Kitchener when we played Niagara Falls, and him and I hate each other's guts. I used to scoop up snow off the ice and fire at his head because he used to send guys after me all the time, and then I used to say, "Hey, chubby," because he's a heavy-set guy, fat, and I fired at him and hit his bacon strip with his head. But you know what? He became my favorite coach of all time, Orville Tessier, and he got a hold of Larmer and I and as rookies, and we had great veterans, Mike Kazicki, Bill Riley, guys that lead us away, and we went to call the cup. We went to call the cup, and I always say Orville Tessier was a guy who actually he rated me. Me and a couple other guys as his favorite players. And I ended up being one of his favorite players, but we first did not like each other at all. Did not like each other one bit.
Yeah.
And he's since passed. Yeah. So
that's pretty cool, man. So now Steve Larmer.
Well, he had the best one-liners I ever heard. When somebody complained about hotel beds, well, they're too small. He said, "Well, they should try to sleep one guy in the bed." he was unbelievable. He goes, this is not a hockey club, it's a winter club. And he goes, "My guys throw more body checks trying to make less call than they do in the game." So he was unbelievable. But eventually it cost him when he coached Chicago. He said we were a team that needed heart transplants. And you know what? Orville never meant any of that stuff. He never meant to be mean. It was just something that spurred the moment that he said, and he regretted it. And it's too bad that it changed his career as a coach. But Moncton was my one of my.
Right on. Now he was your coach. He was your coach in New Brunswick, and then he also became the coach in Chicago.
Next year, and I looked at, and you know it's funny. Somebody just saying to me the other day, and we walked. Dennis Savard I was the second pick. Savard was the first. Savard, Ruskowski, Lysiak, Billy Gardner, Rick Patterson. I'm missing somebody in there. Steve Ludzik. That's a lot of center and fighting. So I had to learn how to play left wing, and I never played left anything but. And then my job changed dramatically to get in the line to be a checker and a forechecker and a penalty killer. I never killed a penalty in my life until I played in the National Hockey League. Not one. Not even in the Hockey League did I kill penalties. I was a power guy.
Wow.
And you know what? They tell you to do to earn a living, and that's what paid for my house, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And Ludzy, another thing that I want to get into is how you were able to accept being the role that you had to play at that level. And that's how you were able to play for so long. A lot of players never figure that out, right? It's the ones that figure out exactly the role that they have to do, which they're going to have to adjust from junior or college or wherever they're coming from in order to be an NHL player, right? It's all piece of the puzzle. You're the coach. You could probably explain that the best.
Well, it's a pyramid. As we're as kids, you, me, I got respect for anybody that played hockey. I just love listening to the way what the stories, their ideas of the game and so forth. And I can't remember what I was going to say, what we were talking about, but
That's all right.
I really enjoy arguing about players, agreeing with players, and so be it there.
Right on. Let's so I also you were talking about a little bit about the beginning of Chicago, but I also wanted to ask you about that draft. About that draft. Where was it?
It was unbelievable.
How did you celebrate it?
Oh, it was in Montreal. I was a 28th player picked overall, and I was sitting with my teammates, some of my guys from Niagara Falls, and they yelled, "You just got drafted by Chicago!" And there was no hoopla. There was maybe 20 people in the Montreal Forum, maybe 30. And Gus Vitale was my agent. They never had a sweater for you. They're not like the presentations today, but I know what you're doing. My dad picked me up at the train station.
Okay.
And he went and got Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we sat in the den of our home. My mom, my dad, and my sister, and my best friend Johnny Kirk. And then I remember looking at a piece of paper with the sentiment on it, and I went, "Ooh, it's going to be a tough team to make." We got some pretty good centermen. Tommy Lysak
all the centers.
Yeah, Groskowski, like I said before. But that was Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what and I never thought anything of it. It was beautiful. And one of the most memorable. I remember my dad saying to me, "You better make Chicago because Tessier's the new coach in New Brunswick." And I went, "Oh, geez," because like I said before, we're not that one at all. But the Larmer story. We're in Moncton, living together, first time. No, me and Larmer. And we were tired of getting our stuff mixed up. So we said, okay, take a marker and put our initials on everything that's ours. Steve Larmer, Steve Ludzik. We couldn't figure it out till we got to the laundromat, and we went, "Oh, what did we do in here?" We must have been tired that day or something, but that's a true story. Mike Gardner says it's his favorite story of all time, and it's because it's true.
I hear you, lads. I hear you. So Larmer, how are you and Larmer the same age though? I know you guys both played in
Niagara Falls. We're Limeates.
Okay.
Larmer and I.
So you guys were Limeates. All right, right on. And
he was my best friend, and I told you that from Warrior. We walked into junior hockey, and to be honest, we really ripped through the league the first month or two. And they call us the kid line because we're all first year guys.
Yeah.
I just made some great friends over the years from those Niagara Falls teams that still keep in touch. And that year we had Peterborough Pete's 3 games to win the Ontario title, and we lost 3 straight. We lost 4-3 to the Peterborough Pete's, who went on thus to win the Memorial Cup. And that's as close as you get. Did you get close to the Memorial Cup?
No, I didn't. I didn't, Ludzy. I made it to the second round one of my 3 years, and that was it.
It's the hardest trophy to win.
Yes, I agree.
No,
I agree 100% with that. 100%, buddy. So, all right, KFC at the draft. I think that's pretty cool. Get to spend with the fam.
Yeah, that's all.
Right?
You know, well, you know what's funny? I think my signing bonus for Steve Ludzik was $25,000, and Steve Larmer I think got 15. And then the first year we lived together, we signed our contracts in the back of a bar in Niagara Falls after a junior game. Gus Vidali brought him down, And I said to Gus, I go, I looked at my contract really quick. And I said, what's this American League song? What's? And he said, well, if you don't play in Chicago, you're going to play in the American League with Moncton, New Brunswick. I had no idea. American League. I just thought you played junior, and if you just went and got a job, do something
Straight
else.
to the show.
Yeah, exactly. Straight to the show. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Didn't happen at all back then. He played a couple of years with Myers, but I remember Lawrence made $20,000 a rookie year, and $25,000. So I paid a little bit extra for the food bill. But man, did we had some fun. Him and I had a lot of fun together. You know, our rookie card, people don't know this. If you want to read a good book by Ken, guy Sportsnet, it's all hockey cards. And Larmer and I, one of the more famous
Ken Reed.
They have Steve Ludzik's face and Steve Larmer's name. They got them all knocked. They got them messed up. They got the wrong name and the wrong guy. And here's the reason why. In Niagara Falls, I was 9. He was 8. We played in Moncton and Chicago, 28, 29. And I can remember Stevie and I going to a big drug store and to get a box full of Cluckers, because that was a year. You know, that's a big thing when you're hockey. Like, people, they don't want to admit it. That's a big thing, seeing on your hockey card. And back then, they didn't give everybody a card. And we're opening up, and Larms goes, "This isn't me, it's you." And I go, "What?" And we kept opening a couple more packs. A mistake, and they never corrected it. So the card's worth a little bit of money. I signed mine. Larms doesn't sign his. He won't sign his.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay. Everyone's got their reasons. Now,
yeah,
that Blackhawks team, though, Ludzy, I want to talk about this team a little bit, because first of all, just like Niagara Falls, Ludzy, you go to this now NHL organization of yours. Again, the first 3 seasons, buddy, what happens? Improvement every single year. You embrace the system. Things were working out for you. You accepted your role. And that's what I think is really super cool. The question I have for you is, I want to hear about these playoff runs with the Hawks. I want to hear about the 82, 83 and 85, 86. Whatever order you want to do, Stevie.
The 82 is probably the time with the Oilers.
82, 83, Steve Ludzik played 13 playoff games for the Chicago Blackhawks, right? So I want to know about that run. The 86 year, Steve Ludzik played 15 playoff games. So those are at least 3 rounds, buddy. I want to hear about them. Do you remember those runs?
Yeah, I remember we played the Oilers, and, you know, that's when Orville got himself in trouble when he said that we needed transplant. He didn't mean that, ever meant it. As a matter of fact, he used it over the course of the season many times, but he thought that might be a motivator against the Oilers. And you know what? The Edmonton Oilers of that era, Coffey, Messi, Curry, all these guys, they were just too good. There's nothing wrong saying hey, these guys are just too good. You know, you don't admit it when you're playing, but when you back, you go, they were better than the 55 Red Wings or the 62 Leafs or 64 Leafs. They just were. That's how good at hockey. Their fourth line guy, a guy named Miroslav Pozar or something like that. He ended up grabbing hold of Al Secord and trying to shake him up. They had Semenko, Huddy, Lowe, and then when you got through all those guys, Gretzky, Messier, you got through all those guys, you had Fuhrer sitting there waiting for you. So how much better can you get the Fuhrer in the playoff series? But what I remember most of all, they kicked our ass really bad the first series, the first year we played them. And my dad was dying at home, and my mom called me when the playoff game the next morning. She called. She goes, "You got to come back. Your dad's not going to live." And I had not known he was that sick. When the last time I seen him, he was 230, 240. And when I went in the house, my mom grabbed me and she goes, "You're going to have it's going to be hard to look at." I went in and we remember this, the Oilers with Gretzky, and they tanned our hides like 10-1, 11-1, something like that. My dad struggles to sit up. He sees me, lights a cigarette, and he goes, "Could not one of you guys hit that little SOB Gretzky?" I'm sitting there And the poor man's got maybe a day to live. And he wanted answers of why we, I said, Dad, he never got himself in the spot. And my dad was always a big Gretzky fan, any which way, when we were kids. But that's the truth. And they were too good. And even it was funny. Like Paul Coffey has the sharpest tongue in the league. And Ben Wilson was kind of bothering him. And he was by our bench in Edmonton. And Coffey goes, hey, 23. He wouldn't give him the satisfaction of calling him Ben Wilson. He said, hey, 23. Do you ever figure out why when I'm on the ice, you're on the bench? Figure it out. You're just not good enough to play against me. And Ben Wilson, that was one of the great comebacks of all time. He goes, number 23. That bothered Ben more than anything else. He called me 23. Does he not know who I am? He'll find out who I am. Balk off, scared of nobody.
Wow. You know what? I would have loved to hear that live, Ludzy. That was definitely a gift to be able to hear some of that banter live.
Oh, you know what? Most of the stuff, as you know, Sheriff, you can't touch it. Nor would you want to touch it when we get set on the ice. That's between hockey players, and there's that respect, and when you do battle and you're finished, shake hands and say, hey, we'll see you again. We'll see you down the road somewhere.
That's right.
And you know yourself, because you're most welcome attraction and to any of these golf tournaments and all these celebrities. You're gonna see the nicest guys in the world are hockey players, the nicest and the most giving and the most giving back. And when I was in Chicago, a guy named Bob Verdi was a syndicated writer. He said hockey players were his favorite athletes, and the baseball players and the football players got really mad. And he goes, I'm going to really piss you off. My second favorite athletes are wrestlers, professional wrestlers. And he's right. He's right, because the hockey players, no ego at all. And I don't know if that's just something that we carry with us through sports. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but that's the way I find it. I'm sure you find the same way.
I do find it the same way. I believe, Ludzy, it's the team camaraderie that the hockey players create that kind of makes this character that we all have. You know what I mean? I think it's the battle that we go through, right? And I think it's the brotherhood.
Why you would be successful, and I used to say to Banksy the exact same thing. Why you're going to be successful is you're used to, like, people don't know what it's like to walk in a dressing room. Is what color jersey am I wearing? Like, what line am I on? Am I still here? Am I being sent down? Or that's a lot of pressure for a young man to and still play hockey the way you're supposed to. And nobody can explain that to him. That every day, you know the feeling walking and go, oh no, this doesn't look good. I'm on the black line, the black aces.
Yeah.
This could be trouble, right? And you just learn to adapt to it, and teammates appreciate the effort you give. And when you're not playing that much, you got to do the extra skating. And Rich Preston and I are just talking about the great Blackhawks of all time. Just called me to see how I was doing. And I said, Rico, I still remember us. We both come back from injuries. We called the bag skate. Down and back, down and back, down and back. You do it for an hour or whatever, right? I remember Rico going, stick a fork in me. I'm done like a turkey. He said, I don't have any more. I can't skate anymore. But just great moments. And I always say, when we were just talking about Steve Larmer.
Yes.
His nickname was Grandpa. People say, how did you get the name Grandpa? First day at training camp in Niagara Falls when we were 17 years old. We ran into each other in the back of the bus, going to the track and fielding. We were going to do some running sprints. He's 20 pounds overweight, cigarette in his mouth, and like an old man. So I said, you're like an old grandpa. And that became his nickname. And to this day, that's what he's known as, Grandpa. And it was the first day that him and I met each other. And I tell you what, with the hockey card thing that I was talking about, if you're going to be mistaken for one guy, Steve Larmer ain't that bad. Pretty good guy to be mistaken with.
Yep, I agree with that. For sure, buddy.
Nicest guy. We're still very close, and we still talk to each other all the time. And obviously, with this health scare, it was. I heard from Lawrence quite a bit.
And that's a beautiful thing to hear from your close buddies, eh?
Well, I think, like we lost Tony Esposito a couple
Yes.
of months ago.
Yeah.
Tony and I were teammates for 2 years, and I knew Phil a lot better because Phil was a radio guy for us in Tampa Bay. But I said with Tony, we were teammates. You couldn't become great friends with him on the hockey because he was so. I mean, day of the game, you stayed away from him. You just stayed away from him because that's how grouchy he was. He had that. He would didn't want to talk, and he might say something, set him off. Great guy, but you're teammates. You weren't best friends.
Yes.
Tom
There's a
Lysiak,
difference.
exactly. Tom Lysiak and I and Daryl Sutter were best friends, and but that only comes on. Some guys are teammates, but you know what? You know better than anybody else. You know what? Hockey players make bad businessmen, and I'll tell you why. Because they think they get in trouble, and they think somebody's going to help them. You don't know it too very often, probably not many times at all. But when you're in a fight and you're getting your lunch fed to you, lunch number 5 with gravy on the side, you know that somebody with your team's coming in to help.
Yeah.
That's the law and order of the jungle.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, you had to do that job. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I always appreciate it when ex-players explain it like that, Ludzy, because there's so many different ways to point that out, but every way is different. And I really appreciate the way that you said it, buddy, because the listeners, they're getting some good insight today.
Well, I could give you guys that played for Steve Ludzik. Andy Bezo set records for penalty minutes in the sin bin. I traded when I was in Muskegon. And when I first started coaching, I told my owner, I said, "Who wins this league every year?" He goes, "Thunder Bay." I said, "We got no chance against Thunder Bay. Our guys are so scared of them." I traded 4 guys for Andy Bezo. The owner thought I was nuts. And I said, "He'll change the dynamics of the team." Andy Bezo was the most dynamic player. He wasn't a goal scorer, wasn't a playmaker. Every single shift, he gave you everything he had. And like Rick Dudley, who's seen his fair share of athletes come through, said that's my favorite player I ever had on my hockey club. It was Andy Bezo. And those guys leave it on the line. Like they leave everything on the line. And I'm not quite sure. People have this thing that punches, just fights, cause problems with the neurological problems.
Okay. Yeah.
I wish people would listen just for a second. When you go to the C&E and you go in the bumper cars, you can go on there for about a minute and a half, and then they blow a whistle and get you off. Being a hockey player is like taking little shots, even in practice.
Yeah.
30 years of your life till it catches up to you. Because it's like a bumper car ride, just bang. And some of them are big shots, some of them aren't very big at all. But it's the jarring of the brain, and that's what makes me. I think I check up hockeyfights.com. I don't know how many, 20 or 30 fights in the NHL. Not a little bit, not a lot, but I don't remember ever getting hit where it hurt. Actually, Ernie God knocked me out in Windsor one night with one shot. I had him at center ice, and last thing I remember saying, "I got to ease up on this guy. I'm going to hurt him." He caught me with the right hand, and knocked me out.
It happens.
It happens, but it's not. It's a total damage is taking place with the body checking continuously to the brain, and I'm glad they're trying to get that all straightened out, because I hate, my Parkinson's. I know my Parkinson's is attributed to wear and tear, concussions. I don't remember like I said, I don't remember ever hurting anybody with a punch in a fight, and I don't remember ever getting hurt myself.
Ludzy, because we're on the subject, with the whole Parkinson's, now it was 2012 that you publicly came out and told the public that, you've been suffering from this and that you were diagnosed back in 2000, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
I'm just I'm trying to piece it. Those numbers sound about correct. I'm not 100% sure, but the only reason I came out, I would have still been doing the TV show. I was doing a TV show called The Score.
At the Score, yep.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun, and we did our own thing, and I could show the viewers what coaches looked at for checking and stuff like that. But I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I would have stayed and doing that job with The Score. A sports writer for the Toronto Star came on. He goes, Steve Ludzik is my favorite guy on TV, bar none. He calls the way he sees him and but I think he's drinking. And that just, when I read it, I remember going, oh my God. Because when you get tired with Parkinson's, you have a tendency to slur your words.
Yes.
So suppose we did like at 12 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd be tired before we went on the air. But, the adrenaline, the light goes on, the adrenaline runs and so forth. But that really hurt. So I knew that I couldn't, and I didn't want to coach because I knew that I had Parkinson's, and that does affect your thinking process. And I just had so much respect for the game, the players that I coached, that I didn't want to give anything less than what I could. And I couldn't do the TV, so what are you going to do? Go on with life.
Yes, of course. Never give up. Let's be strong.
I got a sign up here. It says "Find a Way," and it's my new book that it's going to be coming out in a couple of months. As soon as I get the last couple chapters done on it, and that's the story of my life. Find a way. Find a way to get through this.
So Find a Way is going to be is your new book that will be released in a few months. Let's see. You think?
And then maybe Steve Ludzik might be exaggerating on that time frame. That's being hopeful. But I have another one that I did about 4 or 5 years ago that sold very well. Been there, done that.
Yes.
Hockey, like Danny Gare read it, going to Calgary and see his mom, and he goes, "That's the funniest book I've ever read in my life." And he goes, "I felt like Bobby Mantle said to me, he goes, I feel like I'm in the dressing room. Like any hockey player would read that and he's going to say, I know exactly how he feels." And I think I have an ability to write, and inspirational, and especially the stuff that's happened to me with the Parkinson's and the Crohn's disease. It would have stopped me when I was 17, but I had the wherewithal to battle through and not listen to people, not listen to what the next guy said. Be forceful in your thought process, and I think that's an important attribute for fathers to get through their sons, or mothers and fathers to the daughter. I really think it is. You get a goal, stick to it, go to it. Don't have anybody tell you can't do anything at all. Nobody has the right to say that to you. I called a teacher in grade 6, Miss Aunt Sarah, and I said, she hadn't heard from me in 35 years. I said, I want to tell you something. I want to thank you. When the last day of school in grade 6, she went around and said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And they went to me, and I said, "I want to be playing national hockey." And all the kids laugh, eh? "Oh, you're not playing the national hockey." Oh. And I said, "Put your hand up." You went, "Don't ever step on somebody's dreams." Nobody has the right to do that. Nobody has the right to do that. And you got to have a little luck, but you got to be lucky. That you got to be prepared for the lucky situation that comes across you. So that's that. That's my motivational speech.
And it's an amazing one. I want to touch up a little bit more on The Score, and then I want to jump right back in to some foundation stuff. So I had a gentleman on this show. Okay, his name is Cabral Richards, aka Cabby from the streets.
Oh, geez.
Cabby.
Oh, Cabby
is one of your biggest fans, Mr. Ludzik.
Is he really?
Man, does that guy ever love talking about you in a great way?
I tell you why. I think if I'm thinking of the right story, I gave him the all-time funniest segment he's ever done, and he's a funny guy.
Was it the knob one?
The knob one. And
okay,
you know what?
I want to hear it from you, buddy, please.
Yeah, and you know what happened was I was good friends with him, not as close as him because he worked different hours, but Martine Geyer, And I said, Martine, you know what would be a funny stick? Is talking about the different knobs on guys' sticks.
How do you tape your knob?
She's proper. She said, I think I'll let somebody else. But I went to Cabral, Caddy, and he and his producer loved it. And it was hilarious.
It was very funny, buddy.
I'm so proud of him for doing it because he probably could have got reprimanded. I don't know if he did or didn't. Big star. I'm glad to see him back. He's back doing stuff, eh?
Yeah, he's back in Canada. He's doing some stuff with Sportsnet. He's doing his whole Bet 360 or something, like it's all Vegas stuff, right? Like the betting and whatnot.
He's living.
He's so entertaining, man. But he told me that he learned a lot of the craft from you, though, Ludzy.
Oh, and I didn't know. We didn't get a chance to know each other as well as we probably should have. And he just loved listening to hockey stories. He loved listening to hockey stories. And all those people were super to Steve Ludzik. They were so nice. And people say, did you ever they get mad at you when you said, "Are you shitting me, Wisniewski?" They didn't even mention it to me. They never said. They just be Ludzy. Like, who cares? Just do. You be yourself. But they didn't care. Poor Al Strachan say one little thing on an order, he'd get shit. He'd get pulled up to the office, and nobody. They said, well, they corrected. They put, "Are you shitting me, Wisniewski?" And Wisniewski might be a great guy, but it was a lackadaisical effort, and I had to call it the way I saw it. So that's what happens.
Well, you know what? When I was doing my research, Ludzy, I read in multiple places that your time at the Score, that's exactly what the review would be. That you call it like it is, and you are one of the most accurate and most entertaining guys on TV. And that's the facts.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. You know what? Julius was a big, huge. He didn't talk to me for the first week when we did show, and before we went on the air. This is a great story. Gord Stellick was working with us, and I turned to Gordy and I go, "Where's this show being across Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington, Scarborough?" And he goes, "Ludzy, this goes across Canada." And I was like this. The light flashed on, and I was like Ralph Cramden. I couldn't get a word out. Across Canada. I thought this was like a little thing, mom and pop organization in the And so then I hated rehearsing. So a lot of guys go through the rehearsals and stuff like that. And I told Coolius, "Hey, I'm not trying to act like Dean Martin or Jackie Gleason here, but I don't want a safety net. I don't want a safety net. And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake." But I said, people can tell when you're faking arguments. So the guy that came after me when I left to coach again said, let's cook up a good scrap, because Cooley started liking the idea of not doing this, working together.
Okay.
So the guy said, let's fake an argument like you and Ludzy. And he goes, "Ludzy and I, everything was right there. Like, we didn't say, oh, let's talk about this. It was like bang, 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 bang." And the people liked it. People really liked it. And I'm very proud of that show. And I'm proud of the fact that we put the X's and O's and let people understand. I see some guys go, the first guy go in, and then the second and third, fourth, read and react. Read and react where? Read and react what? Don't just, you see coaches, I don't think there's too many left today, but there used to be, we got to go first guy hard, second guy is just read and react. Read and react. That's not good enough. Read and react gives guys options of not doing stuff they should be doing. So I always thought that was funny. Don't get me going.
That's pretty interesting, Ludzy. That's pretty. I haven't thought about that in a while. That's very interesting stuff right there.
3 ways of teaching an athlete. You can tell them and show them. Tell them verbally. I could say, okay, here's what I want you to do on the forecheck. The other one is you could draw it out on a map, on a board, and show them. And some guys need you to physically walk through what you're teaching them slowly. Walk through it because everybody learns different ways, right?
On
And
the ice, yeah.
some guys need all three. And it's not because they're stupid. They just need all three. I remember we had Pavel Kabina, and he made the same mistake so many times. It was coming up in front of his net and trying to go up the strong side. And I said to the assistant coach, I said, you want to have a word with him about that again? And he goes, Ludzy, I've talked to him 100 times. I go, make it 101. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's
Yes.
not. I used to go to my teams. Banksy will tell you, and Bees will tell you, relax. Don't be nervous about not knowing anywhere. Because I said, if you don't know where to go off a lost face-off in the offensive zone, you don't know where to go. That's not your fault. That's my fault. That's Steve Ludzik's fault because I didn't get that taught. That I want you relaxing, playing your game, going where you got to go.
Now that we're mentioning guys on Detroit again, I kind of want to jump there again, Ludzy, because we're going to have to talk about this time with Detroit because it was just too special. Now, when you arrived, now, first of all, I want the listeners to understand, this is at a time where the IHL was still thriving. There was the Detroit, I'm sorry?
Like a WHA was.
Exactly.
WHA.
Exactly. There's the Detroit Red Wings, there's the Detroit Vipers. Very similar to the Blackhawks and the Wolves of today in Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, the Detroit Red Wings, they're based around the city. The Vipers are at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Yes. Can you explain to the listeners how nice that area was?
Well, it was a special time in my life and my family's life. Palace of Auburn Hills is in the suburbs, and it was a palace. It was like a little city, and it was fantastic. And I could not believe they tore it down.
They tore the palace down?
Palace of Auburn Hills down, like right straight to the ground. Somebody sent me a brick. Like somebody sent me years ago Chicago Stadium brick. They sent me a brick, and I was like stunned. They tore it down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the truth. But it was an awesome feeling, and it was awesome for me because I got a chance to know Ted Lindsay, and Teddy would come to the Palace of Auburn Hills, take me for lunch once a month. I loved Ted Lindsay, loved him. Gordie Howe, I got a chance to coach Gordie Howe in Detroit.
Yeah,
and that's one of the great stories of all time. You got time for it?
Oh yes.
Gordie comes in. He's going to play one shift in the game, the first game of the season. And we go through all this. He's there for 2 weeks with the hockey club, and great guy, great storyteller, kind man, big hands. And anyway, he's with me for 2 weeks. 2 weeks we spend together. The day of the press coming, he calls me. He says, "Can you come walk in with me in the press room?" I said, "No problem." Go into the press. 200 cameras from all over the world. Gordie gets up, and he's in the middle of the dais. Dudley, me, Mark, Marty, and Colleen. And Gordie gets up, and he starts off. He goes, before he start, he goes, "I want to thank this young fellow here, this coach. I really want to thank the coach. Coach," and he drew a blank. And he goes, "Coach Smitty." Rick Dudley's standing looking straight ahead. Rick Dudley's going, "Who the hell is Smitty?" And I said, "Maybe." And Mark and Marty, he's taking questions from the audience. Now this has gone on for 2 or 3 minutes. They say, "How many shifts are you going to play?" He goes, "It's up to Smitty. Whatever Smitty wants." Smitty. And now Mark and Marty take a piece of paper and they write, "It's Steve Ludzik, Dad." On it, he bluffed his way. He goes, "I didn't swear, did I?" He started trying to bluff his way out of that one. But if you're in my bar, which we're down here, there's a Gordie Howe thing on the side, and everything he signed to my family after that was to Smitty and family. Love Gordie and Colleen. But like I always say, he's the greatest hockey player, but his memory wasn't all that great. He's 69 at that time. 69 at that time. But why he came up with Smitty, Ludzik and Smitty, there's no way you can chop that. You can't make that up. You can't make that up. The guys that played for me were in the back of the press conference. Stan Drulia ran downstairs got a piece of paper and put Smitty where it said coach's office. It said Smitty's office.
So, Ludzy, that's great. But okay, so listen, and I appreciate that story so much, buddy. I will never forget that ever. I want the listeners to know about the success with Steve Ludzik and the Detroit Vipers. Now, you come in as an assistant originally.
Yeah.
Your first year as a head coach. What happened, Steve Ludzik? What was the outcome of that season?
First of all, I gotta tell you, because it's never added, and it's a little small creak in my bonnet, I guess. Rick Dudley at the halfway point of the season, when I was assistant coach, said the team was under 500, and he says, "You take over, you run. I don't want to coach this team." Right, and I tried talking about it, and he says, "No, you coach it." I think we lost. You have to check the record. I think out of the last 40 games, we won 35.
Okay, so that's amazing.
I never got added on my coaching record. The next year,
yes, they did.
Coach, and we had Samsonov, who's a rookie. Sergei Samsonov, which was a brilliant move by Duds, because what had happened was Ottawa 67s, where he was supposed to play, didn't sign a piece of paper. And Duds, in his work ethic, heard the rumor that he hadn't signed a paper to play in the OHL. So he was null and void from playing for Ottawa. Duds jumped on it, got him, and everybody's going, a 17-year-old, how's he going to play in the IHL? He's going to get killed. Hey, I got to tell you one quick Sergei Samsonov story. We're playing against Cleveland in the semifinals. And he was struggling. He's a 17-year-old kid. You got to remember, he's only 17, and he was struggling. I went to him. I go, Sammy, how do you think you're playing? He goes, Ludzy, I'm no good right now. I stink. I'm not. I'm going to put bigger guys in, a couple of bigger guys in the room, and we're going to get out of the series, and then we're going to play Long Beach. I want you to be ready for Long Beach. That's John F. Oxygen. This is the type of guy Samsonov is. Never complained once. He was Rookie of the Year that year. Never complained an ounce. Stayed in shape for the 7 or 8 days that we were playing Cleveland. First game back, Detroit Vipers 4. Long Beach Ice Dogs 1. Sergei Samsonov, all 4 goals.
All 4 G-notes.
That told me right there what kind of. I already knew what kind of kid he was. I already knew he's the greatest. I mean, guys like Banksy, you could not go by Sergei Samsonov. You could not touch him. You could not whistle Dixie in his ear. Banksy and Crow and B. These guys loved him. It was worth your life if you touched Sergei Samsonov. That was the unwritten rule. That was the unwritten rule, because he was loved so much by his teammates. Those guys loved Sergei Samsonov. Oh my goodness, I don't think I've ever seen a player loved like that. 17 years old, Rookie of the Year, Calder Cup or Turner Cup championship.
Turner Cup champion.
Champion, 17 years old, and that I say that story told me all I needed about him was the 4 goals. He never bitched, he never moaned. He probably could have, and he didn't. He kept his mouth shut. Bang, 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 bang. 4 goals at home. Unbelievable demonstration of mind over matter.
Absolutely. But what blows my mind is, Ludzy, this guy actually was 17 when he played in the IHL.
You know what? He still, he loved that area so much. He loved the people of Detroit. He lives in Detroit to this day. And he's one of my favorite players I ever coached. I'd say, you know what? Him and Robbie Shrimp. I don't know if you know Robbie Shrimp. But
yeah, I know him very well.
Okay. I love him. I love the kid. And I heard all these bad things about Robbie Shrimp. Never had a problem with him. His family was lovely. He was a little bit cocky. But, I mean, what?
He's got the best hands in the world. He's got to be a little cocky.
Sheriff, you'd have to arrest him and put him in jail with those hands. Those hands would still skate. They still pick locks. That's how velvet his hands were. I mean, he didn't have great dimensional speed. Samsonov had faster, and then see you later speed. That's the difference. He did not have that 3-dimensional speed. But he never got a chance. He never got a chance to play. The stupid idiots that coached him, I'll put you on left wing. You're clogging him up. He wasn't a great skater, so now what are you going to do? Put him on left wing so he's stop and go. And skating is going to be more extent. Have him play center where he can loop around. That was what he should have done, and he never did it. And then people say, you're Robbie Shrimp. Yeah, I am. I'm probably Robbie Shrimp's biggest fan because I saw what he could do. That's an example of a kid. People like to make stuff up, make stories up. Why people can't help and pat. Why they want to hurt and be negative. I just don't get that. I don't get that, and I never will.
It frustrates guys like me and you, Ludzy, because we're people pleasers. We want people to be happy. We tell the truth. The truth, but we want everyone to be happy. There's lots of haters out there, Ludzy.
Yeah, you know what? You're right about that. There's people just aren't happy with their life. So why not? I remember a very famous agent called me and said, "Good luck with Robbie Shrimp." And I'm like, "Oh, tell me what's wrong now." "Oh, you better get to know the chief of police." Chief of police? Robbie Shrimp was the nicest kid.
He is.
And I always feel that he never got the just desserts that he should have got. But it happens with a lot of guys. I always say, the guys upstairs watching the training camp with the suits, you got to get one of those guys to fall and say, this guy can play.
Yeah.
This guy can play.
Yeah.
You know Robbie Honnigan?
Robbie Honnigan?
Yeah, he's a
scout. I know of him.
He scouted and when I was running the Ice Dogs, and there's a very quick story. He says, "Coach, I know you got a game you got to go to, but could you just make sure? I want you to see the first meeting with these guys." So Robbie gets up and he has his cigar and his hat, and he goes, "Tell me about this first rounder. I'm not going to say names or anything. I'm just going to tell you." The guy goes, "Oh yeah, he's big and strong and fast, and I know his parents, and which I don't care. You know his parents or not." And he can score and that. Robbie Honnigan goes, that's very interesting, because he was drafted last year in the first round, and this guy's from your territory. You don't know where he's.
Wow.
I just went. I said, fire that guy, get rid of the guy, send him home, whatever, pay his bus, whatever. That's awful. But you find that happens a lot. Guys that shouldn't be making decisions on players' futures make them, and they don't even give the kid a chance. What do you give the kid? Don't bring up a guy like Robbie Shrimp and play him 4 shifts in the night and say, "You're not scoring much, are you?" How scored 4 shifts in the night? Nobody. Gordie Howe couldn't have done it. Gretzky couldn't have done it. No, that's just the bottom line. This is good treatment for me, because I get all this frustration. That always pissed me off. And then you look at training camp, and we used to watch the rosters, and you can watch them, and they usually put the thing out at night at the hotel. And you can see the guys they want to give just a little bit of a push to get them through the door. You know what I'm saying? And the other guys, they just want the other guy just to disappear.
Yeah.
There was a guy. This is a funny story. His name was Martin Laitre, tough kid out of the Quebec League. Yeah. And we needed a tough guy. And Martin, you could look up his stats. I don't know if you'll find him. Rick Dudley calls him up, and we go up. Duds is hilarious. He goes, "Martin, we're going to give you an opportunity to make $250,000 this year." It's just this later was looking at him like, $250,000. Yeah, he goes, if you win MVP of the league, that's $75,000.
No way.
There's no chance he's going to win.
Oh, he's the tough guy. That was the joke. Yeah.
He wasn't stupid either. He kind of after all the things on the table, he goes, "Yeah, like I got a chance of getting any of these bonuses." But
was there any attainable ones?
No. Unless it was goals, and he stayed with us for a little bit, and the toughness part of our team was like I didn't really like my guys fighting. Bezo, I used to go, "Bees, I've had it with your fighting every night. I've had it. You got to get a green light now."
Yeah.
If you're going to fight. And he go, we're playing at Fort Wayne one night, and he keeps looking back at me. I go, "Red light." And he gets around the third period. He goes, "Ludzy, I'm going crazy in here." And he was a remarkable athlete. Like Dudley said, that physically the toughest guy. Like, I'm not saying that he was a fighter, but he was more of a forechecker, fan excited, did things on the ice that, like, people wanted to kill him. People want. If you look up, I'd say to your audience, look up Andy Bezo, Bezeau, Bezo, and he was quite a character. You know, the game needed more guys like that. And I used to say to him, I go, Bees, I'm tired of you always fighting. If you can draw a penalty, I'll give you the back end of the power play. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah, draw penalties. Everybody knows you can fight. You know, I don't think too many guys ran into you and said, they want to go with you. Maybe one guy in a team, maybe two, maybe, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was always the biggest guy on the other side that knew that he had to do his role too, right, Ludzy?
That's right, exactly. And so you guys kind of force each other, you know, you're both making money and you're making a living. And so, you know, like Bobby Probert, there was a guy that was, holy smokes. I mean, you saw him. I mean, he never got tired. I remember he fought Kurt Fraser one night and Joe Louis, and Jackie O'Callahan said to me, hey, Ludzy, he goes, you want to see something scary? Kurt Fraser, who was an epitome of physical endurance, was... He could barely get to the penalty box.
After the Probert fight.
Bobby Probert was like this. Just adjust his elbow. Not a puff. Nothing. His stamina was so great. But Bobby Nystrom, they say, Bobby Nystrom was the exact same way. You're in trouble if the fight goes over 30 seconds because he just got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Wow. Man, I couldn't even imagine some of the names that you just dropped there. So Ludzy, the reason why I had brought up the whole thing with Detroit is because the amount of success that you have there, it really earned you to reach that dream of being an NHL coach, right? Because
right.
Here you got here you got 3 years, man. First year you win the championship. Next year you almost win the championship again, right? Losing in the finals. Third, and then you know what I mean, and then the third year, it must have been the conference finals. I'm looking at a round 3 loss.
That's right.
Right.
We had, you know, Sheriff. We had, and I'm making excuses because nobody has to make excuses for my teams. But we had I remember getting a sinking feeling in my stomach in Orlando. The trainer did not clean the big barrels of Gatorade. You know, I used to say, I want them swabbed with alcohol because you get a virus in your team, it goes through it quick. And next day, 2 guys got this virus. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 guys. There were only 2 or 3 guys that were healthy. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, my team doctor in Detroit, Dr. Shapiro, said, Ludzy, it's going to be hard to get through this. It's an awful virus these kids got. You know, and that was a team coached by my old buddy Kurt Fraser, and they did a job, and they came back and beat us. But I could not ask anything more or anything less from my athletes that played for me in Detroit. They're great. They're just great guys. Like, our team was so crazy. Duds and I got carjacked in Detroit going to after the game at Paso Auburn Hills. We had to catch a flight to Kansas City. And Duds got this brand new Corvette. And we're along 13th, going to the airport, 13th Road or something like that. Not a nice spot. And anyway, red light, car pulls in front of them. It happened like this. It was like this. Car pulls in front of Duds. Another one behind him. Another one comes to the side. There's like 10, 12 guys in all these cars. And I can see, all I can remember seeing, like, the guy had combat boots on. And he gets out of his car and he's coming towards this Corvette that I'm in the passenger side. They blocked us in. We couldn't move.
Yeah.
And I hit the guy with the left. Not a very smart move by me, but I knew we were in trouble, so I'm going down. And Dutch pulls the keys out of the ignition to get involved in the scrap with these guys. There's like 8, 9, 10. I didn't take count. And all of a sudden Dutch says, "Let's get back in the car," because they're emptying the car. This is a carjacking right in front of him. Some lady was screaming on the streets. I felt something nick me over the head. They had one guy down, and it turned out to be a whiskey bottle. We get in the car. Dutch brand new Corvette, can't find the ignition because he's never driven the car before. Talk about horror of horrors.
Wow.
He's trying. I said, well, let's get going. The guy's got a whiskey bottle trying to jab in my face, and I got my fight for my life. And the stewardess is, anyways, Dodds gets the car going. Now, Dodds is certified tough guy. He just is a tough man. So he's yelling. There's 3 cars chasing us. Dodds goes, come on, boys. Come on, just follow us. And I'm going, oh, no, this is going to be bad because our plane's going to empty. And there's going to be nothing left of these guys. There's going to be legs and timber all over the place. It's not going to be pretty. Dodds is now saying, "Come on, boys, you want to act like that." I think they thought we were real estate salesmen. But any which way, Dodds is in the car and we're driving, probably going 100 miles an hour. Dodds goes, "Ludzy, I am so sorry." I go, "For what?" He goes, "The guy broke a 40-ouncer over the back of your head. Did you not feel it?" And I went, "What?" And it had a beautiful vest on. That's what I remember was, and I could feel the blood just coming down. You know, the warm blood. Coming down, and I could feel it dripping into my beautiful vest that I had. Now I get mad because the vest. Not that I feel it, but an hour to peel the glass. And now the best thing is we go to Kansas City. That's where we're going to Kansas City. Get in the hotel room. I don't think anything of it. I washed it a little bit, put my head on the pillow, but it's bleeding during the night. Go in the morning, skate. They think the hotel calls police because they thought a murder had taken place in the room. There was so much blood. Yeah, that was. My wife found out about that from my kids' hockey team in Detroit. I didn't tell her. She's going to go crazy on it. She goes, "Are you crazy? Getting out of your car on 13th Road? Are you crazy?" They guaranteed 4 or 5 of those guys had shivs or knives, and that would have been the end of Ludzy and probably Dodds.
Yeah. Wow. That's a story, Luds. Holy, buddy.
Oh man, we were lucky, and I give Dodds credit for getting it. Like he had to take a piece of it. Like a Corvette, not supposed to jump over islands of concrete.
No, it's not. Man,
and then the thing was looking at his face. He was so mad. He was so mad. But him and I Dodds and I probably the closest relationship of any coach and GM. And it's too bad that it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But we're still best friends, and we still talk. And just a great guy, and we had a lot of fun. Talking about him, Dave Schultz, and was my assistant coach one year. I was in the back seat of a car. I mean, they want to go to a game in Hamilton to watch the NHL team, the American League team play. Dave Schultz on the passenger side, Rick Dudley driving, Steve Ludzik nice and calmly in the back seat. Some guy tried to steal the last parking spot on Dodds. And Dodds, he doesn't scream. He's like this when he talks. And this guy pulls into his parking spot, and Dodds gets his head out, and Dave Schultz he sticks his head in. "Are you crazy? You want?" And I'm nice and cool and calm in the back seat, eh? The guy just about shit himself when he saw it was Rick Dudley and Dave Schultz screaming at him through the car door.
I think anybody would be shitting themselves.
Oh my goodness me! And I'm in the back going, "Can you guys not go anywhere with causing any trouble? Jeez, keep back here." But we had a lot of fun. We had a lot. Dodds and I probably had the best relationship of any coach and GM that I ever saw. And he lives to this day in Lewiston, so it's very easy to talk to and see, and especially times that you really know who your best friends are when times are tough, eh? You know.
Yes. Oh yes. Well, tough times don't last, but tough guys do. And it seems that the tough guy friends, they do too.
Absolutely. You know what, Sheriff? And I want to, my wife wanted me, and I'm going to tell you how much of an impression you left on my wife. She said, make sure you thank him for constantly calling and checking up on you, because you didn't have to do that. And, when I went in for that liver operation, it's 12 hours. And that's quite an operation. And my wife said,
imagine.
My wife said to me, she goes, I'd never seen you so calm, relaxed. And I said, yeah, that's the drugs they gave me.
Man.
I felt all the great friends I've made in this game and throughout life, and you're one of them. And I want to make sure you know that my wife, she said to me, because make sure you tell them thanks very much. It meant a lot to our family.
Well, no, and that's no problem. And you could throw right back at her to thank her for being so kind and welcoming when I met her when at the golf tournament. Like I felt so comfortable, Ludzy. I felt so welcome. I was very nervous just because I haven't really been around the hockey guys that much lately, and I just started doing this again, right? And man, I like the part of my heart filled because what I've been missing was fulfilled. I have to be around hockey guys. I have to be involved with things.
And you know what, Sheriff? We get together, Niagara Falls guys. There's about 4 or 5 of us, and we just sit there, and because our lingo's, we got a different lingo. What we think, I remember my wife saying, he goes, "What you think is funny, and what the average guy thinks is sick."
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm sitting there going, "Might be right," but we have a little bit cruder sense of humor. I understand that. Um, we have great admiration for people that work hard and strive to do stuff. I still say the greatest ambassador of the game, the two of the greatest ambassadors of the game are Bobby Hull and Wayne Gretzky. You think of your greatest player of all time, Wayne Gretzky, and he's of the type of man that we have. I mean, he was brought up right. He was brought up really, really, really well. And I knew his dad very well, Walter, because of the Parkinson's. He did a lot of stuff with our foundation, and just a delight to be around.
Now you said it right there, Ludzy Foundation. I'd really like to speak about the Steve Ludzik Foundation.
Yes. Well,
Now,
what happened for me was I'm not a big let's do a survey kind of crapple. Like if I'm gonna do something, I'm doing it. I'm gonna get it done. I'm solely focused on that, getting it done. And I went to a business group of people. And I gave my idea about it was like a Dean Martin celebrity roast, but it was hockey players. These guys kind of looked at each other, and by the time I left the room after half an hour, felt about this big. And the guy goes, "This is not for work. Nobody's gonna want to watch this." And I went, "Okay." I met a girl, Sue Danichuk from well, I can't say her name of her real estate, but anyways, I sat at a coffee with her and I mapped it on a napkin what I wanted, and she goes, "I got it. I know exactly what you want, Ludzy." And because of Sue Danichuk, we were able to start off with the Ludzy roast, and I'm happy to say we've had 11 so far. 11, and we get, Sheriff, you'll have to see it. We get 1,000 people to those dinners. I remember Derek Sanderson came in to be the guy to be roasting. Derek went, "I thought this was like 200 people, like maybe max." I had another 800 onto that.
okay.
And all the money goes to Steve Ludzik Parkinson's Foundation, and it's free for anybody in the Niagara region that has Parkinson's and needs help. And the reason I got involved, because when I got diagnosed with Parkinson's, the doctor came in, did all kinds of tests on me for about 20, 30 minutes, and turned to me and said, "Young man," I was 39 at the time. She said, "Young man, you got Parkinson's disease." I just went, wow. I put my head down and walked out, got in my car, and had to come back and tell my wife. We decided not to tell the boys anything about it. And that's kind of tough. You got to tell your wife you're not even 40 yet that you got Parkinson's disease. So that's tough. And I decided that I wasn't going to let that happen to anybody else if I could help it. So the program we have is the best in Canada, and I dare say the best in North America, but I got to be careful with that. So it's quite a foundation. Every cent goes to the Parkinson's Foundation. That's a prerequisite. So that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what we do. And we have a lot of fun. We raise a lot of money.
Yes. Now, Ludzy, you explained it great, but we're not just going to pass by it that easy. I want to reiterate a couple things here because of the importance. So now, when you settled back in the Niagara area, Steve Ludzik, you had a vision. You had a vision that you wanted to have a clinic where anybody in the Niagara region could rehab and get help for free.
That's
Now,
right.
that doesn't mean that someone from Toronto is turned away, but you wanted to have a program where the community could be served for free to help their situations, correct?
Absolutely. That, I couldn't have said it. Actually, you said it better than I could.
So, okay. So now,
Start
in
speaking for me.
2013, sorry, Ludzy, and I just want to get it across to the listeners. In
Sure.
2013, the doors to the Steve Ludzik PD Rehab Clinic opened their doors at the Hotel Dieu Sévère Health and Rehab Hospital in St. Catharines. Is that
Absolutely.
correct?
Everything you said is right on the button, my friend. And we built something special here. I never thought. Trust me, I never thought that Steve Ludzik would be involved in anything like this. But it's certain things, and I just had a gentleman I talked to today who has Parkinson's, and I said, go get yourself a speed bag and a heavy bag. And he said, what? I go, speed bag, heavy bag, because the speed bag teaches you to keep your quick twitch fibers. And I'll argue with anybody that doesn't help. I mean, it helps so many people. There's so many things that can be done. And I plan on, I mean, I sure not going to probably live to see the cure of Parkinson's, but I sure like to see them manage the people that have it and help them out. So if you go to my website, you'll get all that information. And we've got a great foundation group of people in the Niagara region that just work. And again, I'm the lucky one. I'm a very lucky man, to be honest with you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ludzy, you may be calling yourself lucky, but you're also inspiring, because you're inspiring a lot of people to do for the better good right now. And amongst the likes of Dan Lancione and others, guys that I've met personally, through when you were talking about the celebrity roast. Now, Ludzy, that's one of a few different things that you guys have created. You guys have the celebrity roast. You have the incredible golf tournament that we've been referring to. You also have the t-shirt drive. But I'm proudly wearing right now Ludzy Strong t-shirts. Right?
Yeah, you know what? Ludzy? The guys, that's beautiful. Looks it fits perfect too on you.
Yeah, I love it.
That must be a custom-made t-shirt, right, Sheriff?
Yeah, custom-made and everything you guys got for me, right?
You know, Dan Lancione, he's just a guy that I'm very fortunate to be friends with. Who hockey players really enjoy him. That's the main thing. He can talk their lingo, and if they need a hotel room or stuff like that, he looks after all that. Him and his wife do just such a great job. And Maureen, I get in trouble when I start thanking people because my mind's moving quicker than I can get out of my utterance out of my lips. But people enjoy. You know what's happened? I've had maybe two guys, maybe two or three that weren't. You have to be fan friendly. I don't want to have a guy come down to my golf tournament and act like a big wheel and fluff off somebody. Hey, guy asked for your autograph, give it to him. Give it to him. That's what you're supposed to do. And somebody should have taught you that a long time ago. So some guys, if once in a while, not very many, because I do my homework. And like a guy like Dennis Marook, this beautiful guy. He'll take 10 hours if you got to sign stuff or talk to you or talk about his book, 60 Goals. There's a premier player. Beautiful guy. Just a beautiful. Mike Palmetier. You can't ask for a nicer guy. Mike Palmetier. If you get a chance, and he's open to everybody. Hey, Mike, how are you? And he shoots his around the golf, and he likes to sit back and sign stuff for everybody. It's a beautiful. But you know what? Once in a while, there's a bad egg, and I got to tell him, hey, it's the last time you're coming. Forget it. Don't throw my name away. I got nothing to do with you. That's the way it goes.
That is the way it goes. It comes with the territory. You got to make those hard decisions when you got a tournament in your name, Ludzy.
Hey, here's another ironic thing in my life. The first game I went to watch in the national hockey was Chicago in Toronto versus the Leafs. My dad got me by the Blackhawk dressing room, and he ripped off the top of his cigarette package, and he said, go ask Mr. Hull if you can have an autograph. Remember, it's please and thank you. And I went up to Bobby Hull, and he signed it, and he used his lap of his pads to sign it on to get him a little stability. Never forgot that. I told Bobby Hull that, and he went, oh, you were the guy, eh? And like he's just joking. But he did that to a million kids. And I just want to say, from the, if he had said, "I'll get out of here, scoot, move," that may have killed my thoughts of ever playing hockey. Just that type of talk. Bobby Hull, one of the greatest ambassadors of the game that ever, and I've had nothing but great experiences with Bobby. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, buddy. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Take your
Now,
time. What I don't like too, Sheriff, I'm going to say this is what Parkinson's has robbed me of a few things. One is I have a very nice signature. And part of the thing is with Parkinson's, your writing gets very choppy and very hard for even me sometimes to read it. Hey, you're a healthy guy. You played in the National Hockey League. Some kid wants your autograph. Sign the damn thing. Don't just put a little scribble or a line and somebody's got to put your number on the back end so we know who it is. You see Don Cherry's autograph. You see Gordie Howe's autograph. Bobby Hull's autograph. See how beautiful it is? It's legible. That's the words for the day, legible. Why do some guys just go like this and then hope that you know what is this? Are you kidding me? Take the time. Somebody had told you when you were in grade 2 that somebody would ask you for your autograph. She goes, well, really? Somebody would ask me? Well, somebody is asking you for your autograph, so take the time to do it. Please. Thank you.
I agree 100%, Ludzy. Thanks for pointing that out, man, because it's so true. It's so very true. But you know what else is so very true, buddy? In the past 8 years, the Steve Ludzik Foundation has raised $1 million. Isn't that beautiful?
It's a testament to the Niagara region, Sheriff, and it's a lot of work by our people. We had one interesting thing for a couple of years. A golf ball, a helicopter. People would put their number on a golf ball, pay for the golf ball, and it would drop at the golf course. The closest to the hole won $20,000. $10,000. Man, was that unbelievable to watch! And it's a couple of people went home happy. I mean, that's a lot of money to win on a golf ball toss.
Yes. So
you got to see it. It's unbelievable. And the lady that runs the golf course has been in a huge background. Hey, I'll tell you how I got to know her. She's got a driving range, and I'm not a great golfer. But when I'm having a bad day with Parkinson's, I'm not good at all. My timing's off and everything. So she says to me, "Can I ask you a question?" I didn't know who she was. She said, "You look like you're a pretty good athlete," but she goes, "Sometimes you hit the ball 250, 260 straight as a line, and other times your ball's all over the place, to left to right." And I told her about the Parkinson's. She immediately became the one who designed that charity
closest to the hole?
Close to the hole, immediately. She goes, "I got a great idea. I'd love to try it with you." And then the rest is history. So I'm fortunate that I live in a great region, and then it's been my hometown. I'm a Toronto guy, born and raised, but I'm a Niagara person, and
yes,
and that's what I'm known as. And I had to laugh. I had to laugh. I saw your interview with Tiger.
Oh yeah,
and I loved it because he goes, how do you say? He goes, and I give you credit because Tiger goes, I'm friends with all the big boys, Clark, Gilmore, and the guy from St. Catharines. And he, and he, what I think you're talking about, Steve Ludzy. Yeah, that's it, Ludzy.
Oh, you're talking about Spider Jones.
Spider, yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Spider Jones. And I've had a few banquets with Spider, and he's a beauty. He is. He's a perfect guy for the show. That's what I meant, Spider Jones. Yeah. And he's really good friends with George Chuvalo.
Yes.
And George, unfortunately, is not feeling well right now. But I mean, there's a Canadian. I'm a big boxing fan. I got to admit that I'm a big boxing fan. And so when George used to come to our roast, he didn't come last year, and I understand why. But and that's a legend to me. That's a guy. That's a true gutty guy, and he's had some horrific stuff in his life. We all know that about the suicides with his sons, and it just off.
He actually, when I was in elementary school, I think I was in grade 4 or 5, he came to my elementary school and did a motivational speech. And I'll never forget that, Ludzy. Like, from when I was that age to now, like, I've been looking up to him. You know what I mean?
Well, you look at my basement, I've got Ali Frazier fight #1. I'm a huge boxing. It's probably my favorite sport. Not now. My sons follow it. I can't tell you any boxers. I'm like the '70s guy. I like Corey, Frazier, Ali,
Yeah,
Foreman. Like that was when the
just like
fight.
Spider.
Yeah, that's like Spider. Yeah, and to think how like I relish people who want to argue with me that Muhammad Ali is not the greatest athlete, maybe one of the greatest human beings of all time. And I got to
I
tell you a
agree.
story about my son Ryan, who
Yep.
was he's doing this project for school, and I said, "Why don't you do it on Muhammad Ali?" Ryan didn't even know who Muhammad Ali was. He sent the thing to Ali after he got an A+ on it. Ali sent him back a black and white picture, and you could see he's just starting to get the Parkinson's. His signature was wobbly,
Okay.
but I thought that was unbelievable. And to me, Ali is the greatest athlete and one of the greatest human beings of all time. I get shook up when I see him. I see he shouldn't have fought his last 5 fights.
Me too.
He had Parkinson's. You could see it if you know what you're looking for. He had Parkinson's in the last 5 fights. So how he got through that, and eventually took its toll on him, and he's gone. But what a great man. And not much more than a boxer. To me, boxing was just part of what he was. It was everything else he did.
Well, you know what, Steve? Like, it's funny that you're explaining Ali like that, because when I think of you, right? Obviously, you're an NHL guy, right? You're an NHL guy. You're Mr. Chicago Blackhawk. Because I played for the Rochester Americans, I know that Steve Ludzik was the captain of the Rochester Americans at one time. So I kind of think of you like that too. But to be honest with you, Stevie, what I think you're gonna be remembered for is what you're doing right in St. Catharines, what you're doing right in the Niagara area, what you're doing with this clinic, what you're doing to help others.
Well,
That's what Steve Ludzik is.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the compliment. Uh, Hockey gave me the ability to have a platform. So when I said something or I suggested something, I got a little bit. Somebody give me their ear, and that's there's no sense having a plane if you don't have landing gear on it. You got to bring those ideas and you got to bring them into home. So I appreciate that comment more than you know, and I really appreciate that, and that's how I feel. I'm just kind of a messenger,
I
And
hear you.
roast. I said, hey, you know what? Don't and I try to take this in. Don't wait till somebody's sick and dying to tell them how you think of them. Tell them before that. It's no good when somebody's passed away saying all these great things at a funeral. Tell them when
Someone who's
you're.
alive.
That's right. And the last few years I've done that. I say, hey man, I love you. And it sounds like that's crazy, but that's just the way it is. And that's the way I like life. And I believe that you get more out of it the more you share. The more you share, the more you get. So
That's right, buddy. And the biggest thing, as you know, is you get treated the way that you treat others. And Ludzy, because you treat people so well, man, that's why you get it back, my man.
well, I can use you as my PR man next press conference. Yeah,
Well,
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to do your show, and I hope it's not the last time I do it. You're welcome in the Ludzy's home anytime you're in the area. You call me. I can't have alcohol with you, but I'll have a coffee now.
I'm not a big drinker, buddy. So I'll love to have a coffee with you. And
I
let's see,
just
I'm gonna put you on the spot right now. I'm putting you on the spot because we're still in the show. I want to know if Steve Ludzik's gonna come back for a part 2
for.
for the Sheriff podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you can chisel me, and I you know what I enjoy people that when if you don't have dreams, you don't have wings. You cannot fly. You're grounded. If you don't have dreams, you cannot fly. You're grounded. And I believe that 100%. I believe that once you lose that, the guy was kind of excited. I straightened my bar up here down in my basement with all my hockey paraphernalia. I go, you only see just a little bit of it. It's too bad, but
Hey, man, I see a lot. I see a lot, man. I know you probably have more, but I see a lot, Ludzy. It's awesome.
yeah, and I enjoy it. And I have a wall of hockey, my hockey Hall of Fame, Ludzy Hall of Fame, which these are the guys that I know and I love. And I'd love a picture of you to put up with these guys, Bobby Mano, guys like that. Paul Coffey. That's got nothing to do with being a hockey player. It's got to be being a really good person that I just happen to get to know. And I love that. I love that spot in my bar, and it's a nice spot to be.
Awesome, buddy. And that's an honor. I'm going to get you a picture ASAP because I want on that wall. ASAP.
I wanted to make sure before I go, I wanted to pay tribute to the doctors and the nurses at Toronto General Hospital.
God bless them.
I really, I don't know. I've been 5.5 months for the liver transplant, and I'm a survivor. And I want to thank all the people out there that sent messages to me, sent me their best wishes and love. But I want to make sure the people at Toronto General know how much. The one doctor said to me, he goes, "Boy, you're really irritated to get back and doing stuff." I said, "Hey, I got more stuff I got to do. I'm not finished yet. I'm not yet. I got to get going. I can't sit around." But unfortunately, I've been living with the liver thing for. Well, I was diagnosed. I should have been diagnosed when I was playing in Chicago. They just let it go. Really? That's the truth right there. And it caused so much serious damage over the years. I eventually need a new liver. Like, people hear liver transplant, and they go, "Was he a drinker?" Well, once in a while I drink, but I was an alcoholic, and I never had an alcohol problem in my life. But the other organs, like the heart and the kidneys and the bladder, were working extra hard because they knew the liver was not functioning properly. And I want to say thanks again to that hospital. The doctors were fantastic. I'm blessed. I'm blessed and lucky, and those are two good things to have. If you're blessed and you're lucky, that's damn good.
Well, I'm really happy that you said that, Ludzy, because, man, they obviously did the job for you, right? Like, they worked.
And I wasn't the easiest patient because the first couple when I woke up after the operation, the doctor said, standing there, and he went, "Congratulations, Mr. Ludzik. You kept 4 of our security guards off balance for 2 hours." And we shot you 3 times with sedatives that would have knocked a rhinoceros, and you still are going. But I had a back reaction to some of the medication, and it's unfortunate, but I said I was sorry. I was sorry. And I got to give a lot of love to the nurses. Man, nurses are so, I mean, they were so good to me there, and I'll never forget them. And again, I want to thank you. I'm not waxing apples. That's not a good thing for Ludzy to do. But my family, my wife, and Steve Ludzik, thank you very much for this time to get on the air and talk to people, and for your concern while I was basically fighting for my life for 5. I thought I was in the hospital for maybe a week. My son said, "Dad, you're in there for 6 weeks." Wow. I had no idea the time frame. Isn't that scary? You just lost 5 weeks there somewhere along the way. That's scary. Yeah. That's really scary. But thank you. Yes.
You're a survivor. You're Ludzy strong, and you make the rest of us strong, my man.
Well, I appreciate that. And Ludzy strong, I got that up on the side here, baby, and I appreciate your help with the T-shirts. Those went unbelievable. And if anybody wants to get a hold of Ludzy, get me at ludzy.com.
Yes, and the website, Steve Ludzik Foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and get it.
SteveLudzikFoundation.com.
Yes. The Steve Ludzik Foundation. I think that's the Steve Ludzik Foundation.org. Put the org
Okay.
on.
It's gonna so type in Steve Ludzik Foundation and we're getting the links. We're getting the links. As far as the celebrity roast, the golf tournament, the t-shirt drive, the closest to the pin, is anything coming up soon, Ludzy, that people can support?
I think we're going to make a decision. What things we're going to do? Probably just, you know what, Sheriff, just with my health, just getting back, and I'm still having trouble with my legs, with fluid in them, and it's
One step at a time.
Yeah, exactly. And Dan Lancione and Maureen and that they're really want to make sure that I'm 100% until they get going. And fair enough.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But you know who Ludzy will be calling? Be calling the sheriff when we do have our first thing. And I want to tell you, I love you. I love what you do on the air. And I love your personality. And I love the fact that you're a hockey guy and you never forgot. And I want you to check out the Steve Ludzik, Rudy Pochuk story in Binghamton, New York. I don't know if you ever heard about that one, but that's a great story.
You know what, Ludzy, I swear to God, I was going to say, to lighten things up a little bit, tell me about this Rudy Pochuk cross-check story when you were playing for the Rochester Amherst. I got to hear that before we go, buddy.
Okay, this will be the last one. Rudy Pochuk was a tough guy. He was like
legendary AHL tough guy.
Tough guy, yeah. Leatherface, they call him, because you never got cut. But I with a broker. We're in Binghamton, New York, which is a small bandbox. And Rudy Pochuk's going around we're doing the warm up where you go to the red line, dump it in, break out, regroup, and come in. The old breakout drill, right? And he's kicking feet from under the guy's legs, like the line look like 10-pin falling.
Yeah. So
he comes. I know he's coming towards me, and I act like I don't see him, and I turn and I shish kebab him. I thought I was going to spear him, to be honest with you. Now, you remember, I don't give a damn. Somebody's going to say, "Oh, you're a stick man." Yeah, you guess what? When a 250-pound monster's coming after you, you better stay quick on your feet.
Named Leatherface.
Yeah. So when I clip him one, but I meant to hit him in the stomach, but he was being a smartass and he's bent down, so it caught him in the face. And there's actual film you can watch now. It was banned for the longest time. Somebody found it, and
the video.
The way I thought it was, but what happened was. Mitch Moy, who was a tough guy on our team, jumped in and hit him like 5 times, and this guy didn't even move. And they had Pete Ferrantino, Dennis Vial, Ty Domi. Ty Domi was itching. I could hear him. This was in warm-up. Did I tell you that? It was in warm-up.
So what? This was against
in their shoes. So this breaks out. This breaks out. They finally, one linesman, Pochuk was trying to hold me, missed me with a shot. Hit the linesman in the face, knocked the guy unconscious. He started shaking and quivering. He went into convulsions on the ice.
Oh.
He's right. Did you imagine these referees trying to hold Pochuk back with their mucklucks on? No chance. Right? So they get me off. They get him off. The doctor gets sewn he got 40 stitches in the middle of his forehead. And he's getting stitched up. The trainer comes in, he goes, Ludzik, come back on the ice, which I did. I thought I heard a crowd going crazy, so I came back on the ice. He sees me, and like a bull, he comes running from the end of the Binghamton bench.
Yeah.
Standing, and I got lucky as I could. I kind of threw a Bruce Lee hip toss at him and used his weight against him. He's too strong for Steve Ludzik. I had him down, and he just went like, lifted me up. And then he went ballistic. I have no idea how that fight ended, or how all that ended. But I know our bus driver's name was Old Bill, and he was in there. There's me and David Sajo, who's now part of the Seattle Hockey Club. And any which way, I said, hand me that ice pick. And Bill says, what? I said, hand me that ice pick, because if that Pochuk is coming back, and he comes in this room, he's not coming to wish me Merry Christmas. He's coming for blood.
Yeah.
Bill says to me, he goes, don't worry, I got the gun, but I don't have any bullets. And I went, no bullets? What the hell use is that? A gun with no bullets? I said, we're like this. But any which way, now fast forward it. I'm coaching Tampa Bay. Rudy's trying out for the team. He had a great sense of humor. He saddles up right beside me, looks me square in the eye. He goes, "Hey, Ludzy, you want to finish that bout?" And I looked at this. The way he was talking, I could see a scar still in his face, a big, huge 40 stitches, right? And he was my heart broke when we had to cut him. Heart broke for the guy. He couldn't play anymore. He was an old guard. And he never held any. He goes, I know. He goes, I was a little bit out of off my line. He tried making excuses for slipping the sloop foot on guys. I said, that's not going to work. But he was a great guy, and probably something that I don't want to be remembered for. But that's what happened, and it was an ugly night. But the clutch line was the bus driver said, I got my old Bill. And he said, I've got my gun lunch, don't worry, but I don't have any bullets. Don't have any bullets? The hell's that going to do for us down there?
But Rudy did get some NHL time, though, right, Ludzy?
Absolutely. And he was a monster. Like this, you know what? He was a big, strong, powerful man. And that's all I can say. That's all I'm going to say.
Because Rob Ray, Razor had some good fights against him, and you know what I mean. I've seen that, but yeah, man, I appreciate that story, buddy. I heard there was a really good one with Poshek, and I had to ask you, so I'm really glad that you brought that up, brother. Man, Ludzy, like this has been quite the ride for me the last couple hours. I'm not gonna lie. This has been different than any other episode that I've ever done. I'm so grateful to have done this. And man, I've learned even more about you. I thought I knew a lot about Steve Ludzik, but now I know a lot more. And I'm glad that the listeners were able to hear and get this type of insight, buddy, because you are one of a kind, my friend.
Thank you. And I ditto back to you. And it's you call me anytime you want to chit chat. And then you're in the area, look up Ludzy. Love you.
I definitely will, Ludzy. And I want to thank the fans or the listeners, I should call you, for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff featuring special guest, Mr. Steve Ludzik. First interview back, and I'm just loving it and honored. Thank you so much, Ludzy. We're going to sign out right now. Woo!